AITA for telling my sister to find another babysitter after she asked me to babysit her children and said I don't know real stress, cause I don't have kids. I am a 30-year-old woman, single, no kids, and honestly living what the internet would probably call a soft life. I have a solid job that pays well, my apartment is my sanctuary, spotless, cozy, plants thriving in the windows. I wake up when I want, sleep through the night without anyone screaming, "Mommy," in my ear, I eat meals while they're still hot, and my biggest stressor is whether I want Thai or tacos on a Friday night. I worked hard to get here. I like my life. It may not be the traditional picket fence dream, but it is peaceful and it is mine. Now, enter my older sister. She is 33 and a mother of 3 tiny, high-energy children all under the age of 7. She's been married for about 8 years, and her entire personality has become being a mother. Which, okay, cool, parenthood is a full-time job and then some. I respect the hustle. But the thing is, she treats me like I'm some kind of underdeveloped adult because I chose not to go that route. Last week, she texts me out of the blue. The message starts off polite enough, asking if I could babysit her kids for the weekend because she and her husband are on the verge of losing their minds and desperately need a break. Now, I love my niece and nephews. They are adorable and chaotic and sticky and loud. I do not mind seeing them from time to time at family events or short visits. But a whole weekend? That is a commitment. Still, I was about to say yes, because I get it. Parents need support and I thought, sure, maybe I can shift a few things around. But then she follows it up with this little gem, I mean, it's not like you got anything going on. You don't have kids. You're probably just chillin' anyway. I had to read that twice. So basically, she was saying I must be available by default because I do not have children. Like I am on standby, just waiting for someone to give my life a sense of purpose. Like I am living a demo version of adulthood because I do not have small humans demanding my attention 24/7. That rubbed me all the wrong ways. I felt like she had reached out not out of respect or love or genuine need, but out of entitlement. Like my time and peace were somehow less valuable than hers just because I do not have toddlers crawling on my head at 6 in the morning. I took a moment to breathe and then told her no. Not because I hate her kids. Not because I am busy skydiving off cliffs or clubbing till dawn. Just no, based on principle. I told her straight up that if she thought my chill life was so simple and stress-free, then she could find someone else. If I am that irrelevant to her day-to-day understanding of adulthood, then I should not be her first call when she wants to tap out. She did not take it well. Suddenly I became the villain in a dramatic family saga. She went on a smear campaign, texting our cousins and calling our mom, saying I had abandoned her in her time of need. That she was drowning and I was selfish for not stepping up just this once. As if this was a rare ask. Except it is not. She has asked me to babysit multiple times before, when she wanted to go to brunch, when she and her husband wanted a date night, when she needed to run errands without car seats and whining. And each time, I tried to help when I could. But it was never received as a favor, it became an expectation. So when I finally said no, it was not a rejection. It was me drawing a line. Our mom called the next day with the classic guilt trip voice. Honey, I get that you are upset, but it is for the kids. Like somehow the existence of these small humans is supposed to override every disrespectful thing that was said to me. And I said to her, that is cute, but I am not the emergency childcare system for this family just because I do not have anyone spitting up on me or throwing tantrums in grocery store aisles. I told her that my lifestyle, while different, is not lesser. I worked hard to get where I am. I planned for this peace. I pay my bills, maintain my mental health, and I respect my own time. Just because I do not end every day in a state of collapse does not mean my time is free for others to commandeer. And frankly, I think it is wild how quickly people forget that single, child-free adults still have full lives. I had plans that weekend, by the way. Not big ones. I had a facial appointment I had been looking forward to for a month. I was going to binge-watch a show, try a new recipe, and deep-clean my apartment while listening to an audiobook. Nothing flashy. But it was mine. It was time I carved out for myself, and I was not going to cancel that just because someone thinks my life is less real. Now some of my cousins are messaging me like, just let it go, it's family, and I'm like, exactly. It is family. So maybe don't insult the person you are asking for help. Maybe acknowledge their boundaries and respect their time. Maybe recognize that support is something you ask for, not demand with a side of shade. So yeah. I said no. And I do not feel bad about it. Was it petty? Possibly. But if standing up for myself and reminding people that I am not just a convenient backup plan makes me the bad guy, then I will take the title with pride. Because I am not out here disrespecting anyone else's life choices. I just want the same in return. So, am I the asshole for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she came at my whole lifestyle sideways? Update 1. So, couple days after I posted, I was finally feeling like the drama had died down. I had moved on, re-watched a few episodes of Succession, went on a solo brunch date with myself, bottomless mimosas and 0 screaming children, thank you very much, and was fully embracing the bliss of being unbothered. That is, until my phone buzzed with a Facebook Messenger notification that said, you were added to the group, Family Support Circle. At first, I assumed someone else had created it. My mom, maybe, or one of our older aunts who loves to send Bible quotes and candy recipes. The name sounded wholesome, like it belonged on an inspirational Pinterest board. But no. It was my sister. She created it, and the very first message she posted was a massive wall of text, no greeting, no context, just straight into the sermon. It started with, as mothers, we carry the emotional and mental load of generations, and immediately I felt my jaw tighten. The whole thing read like an Instagram caption that forgot to end. It was dripping with performative vulnerability, as if she thought she was delivering a keynote speech to an auditorium full of exhausted mothers and not yelling into a family group chat. She went on to talk about how women are expected to sacrifice everything, how society doesn't value unpaid labor, and then she pivoted into how we need to call out selfishness when we see it, which, of course, was a thinly veiled jab at yours truly. I just stared at my phone. Not even mad. Just stunned that she really tried to flip the script and turn me into the villain in some emotionally manipulative morality play. She was using buzzwords like invisible labor and support systems, like she had just discovered feminist TikTok and decided to use it as ammunition. Then, one by one, a few of the older relatives started chiming in with gentle affirmations. My mom dropped in a vague, we've all been there. My Aunt Laura commented, it takes a village, sweetie. There were heart emojis. Someone even shared a link to a parenting blog. The energy was very much support group with tea and tissues. And through it all, I just watched the chat, not saying a word. I knew if I said anything, it would be like poking a bear wearing a baby Bjorn. Then absolute gold happened. Out of nowhere, my cousin Becca jumped in. Becca, who has 2 young kids, a full-time job, and a zero-tolerance policy for BS. She never gets involved in family drama. She's the type who brings her own Tupperware to family cookouts and never stays longer than necessary. She responded with a single paragraph that felt like it had been sharpened and polished like a blade. She wrote, this ain't it. You asked her for help, insulted her lifestyle, and now you're mad she has boundaries? Miss me with this martyr routine. And then she left the chat. It was glorious. I swear I could hear a mic drop in the distance. The chat went completely silent after that. No new messages. No heart emojis. Just the sad little thumbs up reactions slowly disappearing one by one as people reeled from the unexpected reality check. I do not know if Becca summoned the courage others were lacking or just had her daily caffeine early, but she cleared the air in one sentence flat. After a few hours of total silence, the only thing that happened next was that I got a notification, you were removed from the group, Family Support Circle. No explanation. No follow-up. Just kicked out like I brought negativity to the community picnic. I guess being child-free and not interested in emotional manipulation disqualifies you from the sacred maternal sisterhood. It felt ridiculous. Like I was cast out of some secret mom Illuminati for refusing to play along with the narrative that my time is disposable and my life is empty just because it doesn't involve juice boxes and school drop-offs. I was not even mad anymore, just weirdly amused. The whole thing was so performative, so forced, so incredibly disconnected from actual accountability that it just looped back into comedy. I closed the app, poured myself a glass of wine, and queued up a playlist called Peace and Petty. I lit a candle, ignored 3 more texts from my mom trying to smooth things over, and promised myself one thing: I am not shrinking to make someone else feel more noble in their chaos. I am allowed to say no. I am allowed to have boundaries. I am allowed to exist without being dragged into someone else's emotional monologue just because my life looks different. And if that gets me kicked out of the family support circle, then so be it, whatever. Update 2. After everything, being added to and then kicked out of the family support circle, like I had committed emotional treason, you'd think the situation would cool off. That my sister would take the L and move on with her life, or at the very least stop dragging mine through the mud. But no. This thing has now taken on a life of its own and evolved into a full-blown family narrative that somehow still revolves around me, even though all I did was say no. It turns out, after I declined the babysitting request, my sister ended up hiring a teenage girl who lives a couple houses down to watch the kids for that weekend. I only found out because my mom called me again, classic opening line about how we need to talk, and somewhere in between the sighs and her saying she was just checking in, she dropped the comment, "Well, your sister had to find someone else." It was delivered with the same energy someone might use to say, "Well, she had to sell a kidney to survive." Like I had left her with no choice but to trust her precious babies with a high school sophomore. Apparently, during this babysitting stint, the teenager accidentally knocked over a small glass vase. It shattered on the floor. One of the kids, my oldest nephew, stepped on a shard and got a small cut on his foot. According to my mom, it was nothing serious. A band-aid, some Neosporin, and a tearful "I'm fine" later, and the kid was back to jumping off the couch like it was a trampoline. But of course, the incident has now become the great glass tragedy of 2025 in my sister's personal mythology. Now she's telling anyone who will listen that the whole thing would never have happened if I had just agreed to help. The logic being, my refusal set off a chain of events that led directly to broken glass, wounded children, and a broken maternal spirit. She is treating it like I created a butterfly effect by choosing not to cancel my weekend plans. Suddenly, I'm not just selfish, I'm the root cause of household injuries. The villain in a safety PSA. The person who let the family down when they needed me the most. She told my mom that family doesn't let family down, which is rich coming from the same person who basically told me my time was worthless because I don't have a diaper genie in my apartment. I'm not sure when it became my moral responsibility to put my own life on pause just so someone else could finally have a nap, but the mental gymnastics required to make me the scapegoat for a minor boo-boo is Olympic level. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. Out of nowhere, my brother-in-law called me. Now, he and I have never had what I would call a close relationship. He is quiet, reserved, the type who blends into the background during family events and only comes alive when football is on. So getting a direct call from him felt like a plot twist. At first, I braced myself for more guilt. I figured he was about to recite some line about how they're struggling, how I should have understood, how the cut on their kid's foot is some kind of karmic lesson. But instead, he surprised me. He said he wanted to clear the air, and to be honest, his tone was calm, tired, but not confrontational. He told me he hadn't known the full story until after everything blew up. He didn't realize my sister had added that "you're probably just chillin' anyway" line when she first asked for help. He said that was not cool, and it changed the entire context of the request. He admitted that all he really wanted was a break. Just a quiet weekend to breathe. Not a family feud. Not an intervention-style group chat. Not a narrative where I made out to be the villain because I exercised a boundary. He even said he found out about the whole family support circle chat and told my sister to drop it because it was unnecessary drama. His words, not mine. It was the first truly mature conversation I've had with anyone involved in this whole mess. He didn't try to guilt me. He didn't try to twist things around or ask me to see her side. He just acknowledged that things got out of hand and that he understood where I was coming from. I told him plainly that I'm not anyone's backup parent. I'm not on standby, ready to abandon my peace because someone else didn't plan for support. And I have zero regrets. I wasn't nasty about it, I was honest. I told him I hope they figure things out, but I'm not going to be made to feel guilty for having a life that doesn't revolve around sippy cups and goldfish crackers. He said he gets it. And the thing is, I believed him. His voice sounded drained, like someone who is surviving, not thriving. Like someone who thought marriage and kids would be hard, but didn't realize how heavy the day-to-day weight of constant chaos would become. And I could hear, in the way he spoke, that he's tired of the martyrdom, the emotional blow-ups, the need to turn every small setback into a grand betrayal. He just wanted a break from the noise. He did not ask for a family-wide spectacle. And for the first time since all this started, I felt a little less crazy. A little more seen. Like someone finally stepped out of the whirlwind of guilt-tripping and groupthink and acknowledged that, hey, maybe setting boundaries is not an act of war. Honestly, I think he's more tired of the chaos than I realized. Update 3. Fast forward to last weekend. It was Easter Sunday, and my mom had planned a big family brunch at her house. The kind of event where you know the food is going to be solid, someone's going to bring a kid with sticky fingers, and there's always at least one awkward conversation about politics, money, or why you're still single. I wasn't exactly thrilled to go, given the emotional whiplash of the past few weeks, but something in me wanted to show up, if for nothing else, to take the temperature of the room. I wanted to see just how frosty the air would be, whether I was still being painted as the villain in this never-ending soap opera. I walked in with a chilled bottle of white wine in one hand and a homemade lemon tart in the other, mentally preparing to fake smile through the whole thing. I figured I would eat, nod politely, and leave as soon as I could get away without raising suspicion. But the second I walked in, I could tell something was off. Not in a dramatic way, but in that weird, subtle energy shift where you feel like people are looking over your shoulder instead of in your eyes. Then I noticed it. My sister wasn't there. Not just running late. Not on the way. Absent. Her kids weren't in the living room turning throw pillows into a fort. Her husband wasn't parked in front of the TV pretending not to be bored. Her loud laugh wasn't echoing from the kitchen. She just wasn't there. It didn't take long for the whispers to start. One of my aunts quietly muttered to another that my sister had decided to host her own brunch. At the exact same time. With a separate guest list. At her house. Apparently, she had invited almost everyone, my cousins, some extended family, even our great-uncle who never leaves his recliner unless someone lures him with baked ham. But she hadn't invited me. Not a word. Not a courtesy text. Nothing. It was like some kind of family divorce had taken place and I hadn't signed the papers. I glanced around and caught a few guilty looks from people who had obviously known but hadn't said anything. Some of them had chosen to come to my mom's. Others had chosen to go to my sister's. The house wasn't empty, but it wasn't as full as it usually was for a holiday gathering. There were open seats at the table. There were fewer kids underfoot. And even my mom seemed genuinely stunned. She kept wringing her hands and saying things like, "I told her not to split the family," and "This is ridiculous," while she rearranged napkins and tried to keep the vibe from going full funeral. Her heart was clearly breaking over the growing fracture between her daughters, but I couldn't bring myself to feel guilty about it anymore. That night, after I got home and finally kicked off my shoes, I got a message from one of my younger cousins. She had gone to my sister's brunch. She was apologetic, said she didn't realize it was meant to exclude me, and then dropped the real bomb. Apparently, my sister gave a whole speech at her brunch about setting boundaries with people who think their freedom is more important than family. She said it was full-on sermon vibes. She talked about how some people choose peace at the expense of connection, and how she's not going to keep begging people to show up when they've clearly checked out. Girl, what? After everything, after the babysitting request that came wrapped in an insult, the martyrdom in the group chat, the narrative twist that turned a broken vase into a personal betrayal, she still found a way to turn this into a lecture on my shortcomings. She framed her boundary setting as noble, and mine as selfish. She cast herself as the wounded hero, and me as the cold, distant antagonist who chose freedom over family. But here's the wild thing, that was the exact moment I felt truly, fully free. Not angry. Not wounded. Not bitter. Just free. For the first time in weeks, I realized I didn't have to keep explaining myself. I didn't have to craft the perfect response, defend my decision, or untangle someone else's projection. The split brunches told the story better than I ever could. She drew her line, and I drew mine. She wanted control over the narrative, and I let her have it. Because I no longer needed her version of me to make sense. It didn't matter anymore. And the ripple effect? It's been surprising in the best possible way. Since Easter, 2 of my other cousins, both moms themselves, have reached out to me privately. These are women who usually keep their heads down in family matters, who post Pinterest perfect photos of their kids in matching holiday outfits and never stir the pot. But they told me they understood where I was coming from. They said they'd been in similar situations, where saying no meant being painted as disloyal, ungrateful, or cold. One even said she had been afraid to admit she was overwhelmed by all the pressure to be everything to everyone, and that seeing me stand firm helped her realize she wasn't alone. She asked if we could grab coffee soon. Just to talk. To vent. To figure out how to set boundaries without being labeled a villain by our mom group guilt trippers, as she so perfectly put it. And just like that, I found a new circle. Not one built on expectations or martyrdom. Not one that demands unquestioned sacrifice and calls it love. But one that values honesty, self-respect, and the understanding that your time is precious whether you spend it with a toddler on your hip or a glass of wine in your hand. I'm good. I'm peaceful. I have my lemon tart leftovers, my wine, my spotless apartment. I have my life, my boundaries, and now a few women in my corner who get it, really get it. I'm not the babysitter. I'm not the villain. I'm not the selfish child-free weirdo with nothing going on. I'm a grown woman who knows her worth, protects her time, and finally stopped apologizing for it.